Very well. Thank you all for coming. We call this meeting to order. February 7th, Alexander County Board of Education special called meeting. So we will start first and foremost with a Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Robinson will lead us.
Please stand. Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda. My amendment includes taking off B under number 2 reports, the superintendent recruiting process options and timing. And my reasoning for that is we as a board have not taken official action to accept Dr. Hefner's resignation, because that was given to us. We didn't put it on last month's agenda to approve it. So I'm assuming Dr. Hefner will be on this February's agenda for approval. So it's not official approval. And also, the board did not act as a board in asking for this recruiting process to start and the options to be given to us.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay.
Nay.
The nays have it. Motion is denied. So as we go forward, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have first and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
So we have 6 ayes, 1 no. The motion's approved. The agenda moves forward. So next on the agenda item is a budget committee update.
Mr. Chairman, I will hand over my minutes to you for this section tonight.
Very well. Thank you very much. May I have this to Chair Littleton? Everyone have a copy of the paper?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
The paper which has been shared with all are an idea list that has come at a high level of a potential action plan to address a $1.5 million shortfall that we will have in our budget next year. The purpose of this meeting is to inform all of the board members of the ideas that are being discussed, to have an open discussion in that and prepare ourselves as we go into next week's formal board meeting to have a vote to proceed and allow Dr. Hefner to proceed with actually putting pencil to paper with what is necessary in order to have the necessary reductions in force to tabulate out to $1.5 million. That's in line with our procedure and our operating procedures that we have in place. Timing is of the essence, as we all know. We're going to be running out of $900,000. We're going to be dipping into that in our fund balance this year, and we are definitely going to be short going into next year without enough cash to be able to operate based on the projected funds that will be coming in. So $1.5 million is that task. The faster we act on that, obviously, the faster that we stop the bleeding that's been taking place inside of our school system. And as we all know, no one's really at fault here on this. This is a result of ADM reductions in terms of enrollment that we've had in our school system over the years. And we also perceive and we see from all the census data that that ADM reduction will continue to erode and move forward. So this is not just a one-time, one-and-done discussion. This is something that will unfortunately continue forward into the future with other activities. So this is one step, but obviously we're going to include you in the community and letting you all know exactly what those steps are. So with that being said, to all board members, there's a list of this. Dr. Hefner, please, if you wish to speak up on details on this as we give the update, please so do. There's a number of personnel that have been identified, not in terms of persons, but in terms of generalities and functional areas of the school system. We've been looking at teaching positions with an expectation of $453,000 to be identified through that. We've been looking at our communication staffs, clerical, bookkeeping, data management, media, counseling, social work, as well as classified personnel and locally funded one person in our activities here through some of our programs. The total number of positions that have been identified thus far is 22. The total dollar value savings through the reductions in force would be 1.478 million, close to 1.5 million. Obviously, that's the update that we have here to provide you with, to all your board members. Obviously, this is going to be published to the public as well because this is part of our conversation on this. So I open the floor to discussion.
Has the budget committee reached out to our commissioners to set up any type of meeting to see if there's any help available?
I think once the budget committee sees that this plan, the board perceives that we're going to move forward and accept it and give the challenge to Dr. Hefner, from that point forward, it would make sense to have that conversation with our county commissioners to let them see what it is that she's working on and how it is that we're directing her to provide us feedback on the necessary reductions. Right now, there's nothing to talk about because nothing has been kicked off.
So you're projecting this to happen in the beginning of 2024 school year?
The
These-
task that we as a budget gave the administration is that we had to find $1.5 million that would be in effect the net savings over the course of the 24-25 school year.
And you're talking 22 positions starting for that year?
Yes. Not me talking, I'm reporting to you what was provided to the budget committee.
So the budget committee has reported this, and we're looking at 22 positions, but we're going to assume this without going through any other avenues? Am I clear?
What other avenues do you have?
Well,
We
I-
should add them to this list then. If you have other ideas, you've been working with others, and you have ideas, please put them on this list, and then we'll make that part of the conversation in the upcoming board meeting. I don't understand.
Mr. Arguez, I'm not trying to be difficult.
Yeah, I don't understand your point.
Well, we're not reaching out to the commissioners. We're sitting back and just automatically cutting positions without doing anything.
We're doing what we said we were going to do. We said that we have a budget task and that we were going to make the cuts that were necessary and executing to that budget task.
And
We're
it's
doing
my,
what we were voted by our voters to do and to perform.
and it's
and
my
it's unfortunate-
understanding that we
Let
have,
me finish, please. And we unfortunately have the situation that has been brewing and growing over years, and now we're at a crisis point because it has to happen. We know that we flat out will not have the cash. There is no safety net. So time is of the essence, and we have to act quickly. This isn't a time to continue with the standard mode of just talking about things. We have to do this, and we have to move forward. If you have other ideas, they're welcome.
are you
But this is-
finished?
Yes,
Because I do have.
please.
I think the facilities committee has a possible fund coming in with the sale of a building. That's a pretty substantial number. Have you talked with facilities?
Yeah, but that's a difference between capital and expense.
No, sir, we can
We-
use that money.
We have, that would be money that would be coming in from a sale of a property, if it does happen, and it's a one-time event. We'll still have that problem
Right.
structurally as a school system.
Right?
And all we're doing is kicking the can down the road by not addressing our structural cost problems, which we need to do. And we also need to replenish 900,000 of fund balance that's getting consumed this year. Any other questions or comments?
So we're not gonna talk to commissioners for any relief from the county side till what point?
Well, we've been talking with our commissioners during the budget process. We made requests to them for budget process, and they gave us an answer. And we need to find a way that we can make the numbers work.
What's
with
that
what we
answer?
have.
Maybe we all need to hear that answer because I'm not
That's
clear
what
with it.
The answer was what we presented in our team meeting, not team meeting, but our community meeting, of $1,700 per student. That's the money that we got, which is an increase from previous years on a per-student basis.
It's only an increase because we lost students. But I'm not going to accept that as an answer until we can sit down with them publicly and say, can you help us? Will you help us?
I think we've asked for help. We've gotten an answer.
Not publicly.
Okay, very well. Any other comments? Yes?
You're not supposed to take questions.
Yep, I'll repeat what I had said. The process is, we had a $1.5 million budget task that we needed to address and fix. Okay? The solution that's been presented is this, which will be shared, that shows 22 folks that will be addressed as part of a reduction force. Who, we don't know. Which roles, we don't know. All we know is a total count in general categories. The process is, we receive that, we as a board discuss and choose to accept and give the directive to go ahead and formulate a plan, which is in line with policy and procedure of going through in detail each individual inside of the organization based on skill, on category, time of service, any other additional decision making. So it's an even decision and it's a data-based conversation. And then that is what Dr. Hefner and her team will present to us for a final decision based on that total list. Do we want to go forward and actually put it into play? So there's 2 discussions. Next week, we will vote, if we so vote as a board, to have Dr. Hefner do that pencil to paper exercise. And then at the March board meeting, she will bring that result and that data to the board, and we will have that decision point whether we want to go forward and do that or not. Will there be conversations with commissioners between that February data preliminary and March? Maybe. Will there be conversations after March and we have more data and it's absolutely understood what the impact is? Sure, because then we'll have a plan. Right. This is the, right now from a budget committee, this is what we have seen as the immediate plan that can deliver $1.5 million. I'm sorry, forgive me. This is how we can deliver $1.5 million in savings, which is what's necessary. Other ideas that are to be coupled to that to address the additional ADM reduction that we're having in student counts in the years out are up to and including additional reductions in headcount or school consolidations or some of the other ideas that came out of the community meetings that we had. And that's what I'm saying, this is not a one-time issue. This is not a one-time activity. This is something that's going to continue over time. Okay. Any other questions? Unfortunately, not per policy right now, but certainly when we come up to the next board meeting, if you want to state your opinions in public comment, we'd absolutely love to hear you.
Well, the public comment data said the one thing they wanted least of was cuts. That was the data that you collected.
There were a number of ideas that came back in the Pareto that was provided by Dr. Hefner in the past, this one here. And it showed all of the listings of the ideas that came from community feedback, from parents, and also from teachers and staff that we had within it. The number one Pareto item was cut or consolidate positions. The number one was look at technologies, and lastly, in consolidating schools in terms of the top 3. So those are kind of where this team has gone in, right? And cut and consolidate positions being where it came in as number 1 in the feedback that we had received. This is what was published in 2 board meetings ago.
It was in the December. I pulled it up. It's in the superintendent's report, the public view under the attached documents.
Yep. Okay. All right. So what I would ask the board then is that you please digest this plan that has been put before you here. We will have it for open discussion in our upcoming board meeting coming up next week. And the decision that we will make, the deliverable out of that meeting will be, we will vote whether to direct the administration to proceed forward in compiling a plan in line with this net savings or not. And if the decision is to compile with that plan, then the expectation would be that the administration goes forward with that. And then in the March board meeting, we would see what the summary plan looks like in terms of the details behind that. And we as a board would decide yes or no to proceed at that point. And then after that, it will be a communication strategy on how to execute. Okay. So that, the next agenda.
Can I add one thing right there?
Yes, please.
I know we're not taking no action tonight. I mean, this is a lot to digest. And, you know, we knew on the data results that was shared in December that across the board, the highest priority was that cut or consolidate position category. I'm grateful we got a few days to digest this before our regular meeting. I would not have felt comfortable having this data in front of me next Tuesday and having to make a initial vote to proceed with the process. We're in tough times, and we've been very open. It seems like since last June or July with this. We had meetings. The data results were shared in December, and none of these decisions are going to be easy. And I'm glad that the budget committee's got this data out here for us to have a little bit of time to digest before even next week's regular meeting.
One of the things that was mentioned in our budget committee meeting was, nothing that we do, it's not going to be easy. It's a matter of what we can afford. And we're facing these challenges, and it's what we've got to identify and move forward with.
Absolutely. And as we're going through with all these details too, one of the questions that I'll ask the board to think about too as part of our conversation next week is how do we assure point focus on the execution of this as well as the formulation of steps 2 and 3 in terms of what was on the Pareto that was presented in December, because this is not going to be a simple task. This is not a part-time job thing. This is a full-time project management type focus activity that's going to be required. And so I'd like us to think as a board, do we want to direct such a level of focus? And do we want to bring that kind of attention to the tasks that we have ahead of us? And something for you all to think about, as we spend the next week mulling over the details behind us and preparing ourselves for our formal board meeting next week. Very well. May I move on to the next agenda topic? So the next agenda topic is to have the discussion on the superintendent recruiting process and options. As we all know, announcement was provided to us as a board by Dr. Hefner of her intent to retire effective July 1st. And obviously there were publications in the newspaper and the media illustrating that as well. So from that point forward, we started a discussion with a number of service providers in the recruiting effort, and we came up with 4 potential service providers, and they will be shared with you. The first was the North Carolina School Board Association reached out to us and shared their services that they have available in superintendent selection process. We touched base with Western Piedmont Development Council, which had worked with our county commissioners in their recruiting activities and came very highly recommended based on the success in finding our county manager. We identified a group called Massenboro Group, which is comprised of former superintendents that are well-connected in the North Carolina academic circles and management circles. They provide consulting services for improvement, addressing a cost, but also in recruiting and talent development. And then lastly, Campbell Shatley, our legal team that provides the legal support, also provides placement support for candidates. We looked at a timeline from each one of them of what it is that they could provide us. And in that timeline, talking about when is the date that we kick them off, and then when is the date that we would have candidates available to us, as well as dates inside of it that the community will be sought for input. So that we would have a part of the conversation being a forum saying, what does the community want in a superintendent? Here's input. Then thereafter to kick off posting in local papers, publications, state and national level, as well as person-to-person headhunting activities and finding talent. The list that you will see when you pull it up on our webpage shows a side-by-side comparison, and it shows when is it that we would be needed to kick them off, and all of them, without fail, is within the 15th of February. Leading through all the chains of events of all of the suppliers, or I call them suppliers, all the service providers, the recruiting firms and recruiting options that we would have, when is the date that they would provide a 80% confidence is the target, not 100%, because nothing is 100% guaranteed when you're looking for somebody to lead our whole school system. And the 80% confidence rate that we were looking at coming in is somewhere between the 1st of July and August 10th. I've highlighted that in a side-by-side comparison in the table called search chart of costs.pdf. Within that file, all the details will be discussed or shared with you with the timing as well as the cost. The cost implications for the recruiting firms are running in the range of $5,000 up to $30,000 for a recruiting effort for a superintendent. I come from a corporate world where normally a recruiting effort for an executive is 30 to 40% of first-year salary and bonuses, so I looked at that and I wasn't surprised to see that kind of cost, just to give you a little bit of a commentary and color of what those numbers come back looking at it. But most importantly, if we look at the next table, which is showing the side-by-side this comparison between them, it's called the chart called Search Chart of Options. And within that search chart of options, I took the liberty of creating a rank scoring of the four options and against the categories. And what I'd like to do is just openly here as a group talk about, do these categories make sense or not? And it's just some way to ground us in terms of data and looking at parity, side-by-side parity of the capability of the network and how extensive is the network for each one of those service providers. How well connected are they with superintendents in the region or in the state or in adjoining states that they can find top talent? How seasoned are they in superintendent searches? Are they newcomers to the game? Is this their one that they do every 5 years, or is this something one of 20 that they do over the course of every single year, year in and year out? An important element for the community is that the candidates match the values of Alexander County and somebody that we want to have and integrates and well with the values that we have in our school system and in our administration. The costs, obviously, when you have a range from 5 to 30, there's a big disparate difference between them, and that's a differentiator. The timing, we hit July 1 so that we're in line with talent, ready to take the helm in the organization or not, right? So it's either a go or you don't go, you don't hit timing. And lastly, what is the track record of successful searches for them? And so we force ranked North Carolina School Board Administration, Western Piedmont, Massachusetts, and Campbell. And this tabulated list is purely my guess and my input on this, not any opinion of the board or any other members of the board. It's just to get the thought and the conversation started amongst ourselves. So that's it. I'll open the floor to comments or questions.
Chairman, you want me to address the difference between us and all the rest?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Superintendent. Good evening, board, and good evening, public. I am here this evening. I did not come down the mountain to pitch our services for the superintendent search. I came down the mountain because I'm your as-needed legal counsel, and we need to talk about some personnel issues in closed session. So that's why I'm here tonight. But your chairman, Iglesias, did contact me and asked, do you do search services with your firm? We are not a search firm. So we are not really in competition with these other folks that have given you proposals to be a search firm. What we do as general legal counsel is we provide board-assisted searches. We have had clients from time to time. I'll give you an easy example. Let's say you've got a board that has some folks in-house and they feel real confident that they're probably going to choose an in-house superintendent. They don't want to advertise it nationally. They don't want to spend a lot of time with headhunting other services. They've asked us, well, can you just help us through the process? So what we've proposed is a board-assisted search, where we simply put out the application. Now, we do very intensive reference checks, and we can still do those in partnership if you hired a headhunting firm or a search firm and you wanted that additional layer of attorneys calling references and doing in-depth reference checks. We can certainly do that. But first point, we're not a search firm. We're not in competition. I didn't come down here to try to pitch our services. We're happy to help you if you need us. If you don't need us, we got plenty of work to do, so that's not a problem whatsoever. But I also feel very strongly that it doesn't make sense while you're reviewing these things for me to sit here. So I told the chairman, this is my own personal ethics. I'm going to step out of the room while you have this discussion.
Thank you.
Because I don't think it's appropriate for somebody who submitted a proposal to be in the room when others were invited, but I wanted those folks and the public to know that that's not the reason I'm here tonight. I didn't come down here to make a pitch. But with that said, the only thing I do feel compelled to say, and I'm happy to answer any questions about the process, the legal process, is your target date for hire. I think the confidence level is an excellent way to look at that. You are going to be at the, I won't say mercy, but potentially the availability of your ideal client or your ideal candidate. And that candidate may need to finish up what they're doing. They may need to give some notice to a board or to an organization before they come to you. So one of the things to have in the back of your mind is even if you are gunning for a July 1 start date, you need to be flexible. That best candidate may not be able to start until August 1 or September 1. But this is hopefully, Dr. Hefner, a very long-term relationship, because long-term relationships always work the best. So I think confidence level is a great way to think about that. You cannot simply say we have to have somebody by July 1, because I think you will lose some good candidates if you are hard and fast on a July 1 date. So that does involve some consideration of an interim superintendent, and that can be done to kind of fill those shoes. So I do feel compelled, because I have been doing this 27 years. We have assisted over probably 20-something boards and searches, and that is the one thing that comes up is you can have an ideal start date, but it's hard to get it sometime. The other thing I'll point out to all of you is this is a very intensive process with not a lot of time to do it. A lot of time boards do like to have more time. Can you do it in the time allotted? Yes, you can, but you're going to need to run those trains, multiple trains on multiple tracks at the same time. In other words, you're going to want the application out there. You're going to want the search firm looking for talent, talking to talent. You're going to want to be surveying teachers, surveying the public, all at the same time. So that when you do get those applications back, all you have to do is check references and interview. So you can't think of this as a linear process. You have to think of it as a multifaceted process in the time that you have available. So those are my two observations. I'm happy to answer any quick questions about anything, and then I was just going to step in the side room until y'all are finished with your discussion.
Thank you.
Any questions at all? Great. Thank you for that time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Here again, tonight, no action's being taken
No
on this.
action.
It's just getting the information out and
Give you this data, share with the community what we're doing, and also give you enough data to be able to mull over which of the options would you like to vote for so that we can choose and vote as a board, make a decision on which one we're going to go so that we can engage with them by that February 15th target date so that we have a chance to hit the July onboarding. Not with 100%, but a chance to hit the July onboarding.
I have to say that I'm going to have a concern of spending $20,000-$30,000 on a search when we're in critical money, financial problems. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Mr. Chairman, you're saying we need to have this voted on by next meeting?
Correct.
Okay,
We'll bring it up for vote next meeting, which way we want to proceed.
okay.
Any other questions or comments? So then, that wraps up the open session that we have for this board. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion. to
Second.
adjourn.
We have a first and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Nay? No? No nays? The ayes have it. Meeting's closed.